Hey book friends, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a video where I talk all about the books that I feel have kind of an adventure theme. So I do run a reading challenge on this channel in Discord. It's always linked below, and our June prompt is an adventure theme. Now why I picked this for June is because one, June is always the month I take off from homeschooling. So June is always the month where we do things, we take vacations, we do all the things in June. And so I associate June with adventure and fun. And so I wanted to make a recommendation video about books that make me think about June, make me think about adventure. And so I have a couple different broad categories, mind you, depending on what kinds of things you want to read. So when I think of adventure, I think of a couple things. I think of road trips, I think of summer vacation, I think of moving or new beginning type books, I think of quest type books. All of those things I put in the adventure category. So stay tuned and I will share all of my recommendations with you to get you excited for the month of June, for the month of adventure. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. So like I said, we're going to be talking all about the books that have an adventure theme. So let's just hop into my recommendations. And for the most part, I have read most of these. I'll make note if I haven't read them and if they're on my list of potentially reading this June. But let's start with road trip books. So I have a couple off of my shelves that I could think of that were very road trippy. This one in particular. So this is The Lincoln Highway by Amor Towles. This is about a man who has recently been released from prison and he is looking to start a life with him and I think his little brother. But he gets a little sidetracked by some of his previous friends from the jail and they kind of go on this like cross-country adventure. And it's very Amor Towles in the sense that it's very descriptional. The book only covers a 10-day span, but it's very large. So you spend a lot of time kind of getting to know the characters as well as just the description of what's happening. So that's a very fun road trip type book. The next one I thought of when I thought of road trips is Survive the Night by Riley Sager. So this isn't necessarily one of my favorite of his books, but it can be really fun, especially if you're a little new to the thriller genre. So this has to do with a girl who is in college and she's looking to find a ride home. And she goes to the board where people post that they can offer a ride, and she gets a ride from this man, and so she just hops in, and then she starts to worry that maybe he is a little suspicious because their campus has experienced, I think it was like a serial killer or somebody who was murdering women. I can't quite remember. And she has some association with it, like her roommate was associated in some way. So then she starts to feel like maybe this guy is bad, but she's stuck in the car with him, and it goes from there. So it's pretty fun. It definitely has some tropes that can be a little bit annoying, but overall, I'd say it's a good road trip book. All right, as for quest books, so books about quests. So I would say when you're talking about quests, you're probably mostly talking about the fantasy genre. And so there's a classic one that I'm going to recommend that, you know, if you haven't read it, you probably should because it's so good. And that's The Lord of the Rings. So here's the first one, The Fellowship of the Rings. It's by J.R.R. Tolkien. It is classic fantasy. It's really classic literature in my opinion. I mean, most people have seen the movies, but it's just a wonderful story about Frodo and his friends as they're on this quest to get rid of the Ring of Power and to go to Mordor. And there's this group that comes alongside them, this fellowship of different elves and dwarves and humans and all these people that come alongside these little hobbits as they're trying to go on this quest. Now these books can be quite descriptive. You kind of have to be ready to jump into this world and just really immerse yourself in it. And when you do that, it's so good. So if you haven't read Lord of the Rings, June would be a very good month to do it. Another quest/adventure book I want to recommend is another series. And so this series I've been talking a lot about on this channel, so bear with me, but it is the Chorus of Dragons series by Jen Lyons, the first book being The Ruin of Kings. It is about this man named Kieran who grew up kind of as an ordinary thief in the city, and then he finds out that he was actually the bastard son of one of the princes in one of the big major houses. And the first book kind of tells the story as he discovers that, but it really starts with him being in jail for some things and then telling his story kind of backwards as to what happened. But there's these big overarching problems in this world. There's a big bad that they have to face. But in the meantime, Kieran and kind of his group of people are figuring out how best to tackle it. And so it feels quest. I mean, it's not totally like go on a quest and to get this thing, but it has a lot of those elements. So I did want to recommend it if you are feeling to be in a fantasy mood. Okay, so that's quest. What do I have next? Oh, moving and fresh start. So this one's fun. So when I was thinking about that, it is an adventure when we move and when we start fresh. And so I have a couple books. So there's like the classic, like Eat, Pray, Love. I feel like that's definitely an adventure where I believe, it's been a while since I've read the book, but I believe she gets a divorce and then she just wants to like go on this world trip to kind of find herself and solve her problems. And she goes to different places like Italy and India and I think Thailand. And that's very much a like starting over sort of adventure. So Eat, Pray, Love is kind of a classic if you haven't read it. It's very good. Another one I would say is more like moving and starting fresh is this book. So this is a historical fiction where The Lost Wander by Amy Harmon, and it's about this family that joins the wagon train to go out west, and they're part of this big train, but then some things start happening and it is a lot more rugged out there. There's Native Americans who are a bit hostile to them taking over their land, obviously, and just some of those tensions. And so it's a really good story. I feel like it's very real and raw and heartbreaking at times, but it definitely tells that kind of like starting fresh sort of story. And then I have a book I haven't read, but I'm hopefully going to get to it this month. And that is Beauty in the Breaking by Michelle Harper. And this is about an ER doctor whose husband leaves her right around the same time she moves to a new city to start a new job. And it goes through her process of grieving all of that, as well as finding beauty in helping her patients and finding that everybody's story has some of that grief in it and how to thrive in that situation. So another book that has a little bit of a moving theme, this might be a bit of a stretch, but I just like to recommend this book. And that is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. You guys, I loved this. This was a book that was on my favorites list last year. And it's just a really fun series. So this is the first in a trilogy about this girl named Avery who has been contacted that someone has given her an inheritance, this man that she didn't know. She just has to go to the estate to figure out what happened, and then she finds out that he has given her his entire inheritance. She just has to stay in the house for at least a year with her grandsons, and the house has lots of riddles and mysteries, and they try to solve lots of questions, but one, why did he leave all the inheritance to her? So it's a really fun, starting fresh, moving sort of themed book. Another one, so Nature of Fragile Things by Susan Meisner. So this is about a woman who is kind of a mail order bride who heads out to San Francisco to marry this man to help him raise his daughter who has become mute due to kind of grief and tragedy of losing her mom. And so this woman is just really starting fresh and marrying this man she doesn't know, and then things just start happening from there. And I really enjoyed it. It is very much a historical fiction because the time frame of the story is around the big earthquake in San Francisco. So you definitely feel what it would feel like to be at that time frame, but there's also some mystery and thriller aspects to the story as well, which is just really fun. And then the last section of books I want to recommend is kind of those summer vacation vibes. Now I looked at my list and I realized I don't actually have any that I have read, but I have a few on my shelves that I want to read. So these two. So this is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This and Beach Read are the two that I associate with her books that have to do with summertime and vacations. And they're both romance books, and I don't know a ton about either of them. I think this one has to do with two people who have been lifelong friends, kind of in and out of each other's lives. Something happened and they have to come back together and reconcile it. And then Beach Read, if I remember right, has more to do with two people who are on vacation who are both authors who are trying to write their books, and they find themselves next to each other in like little rental cottages on the beach, and then they become friends maybe, or they're a little snarky with each other and they make fun of each other's genre. One's like a very serious writer and one's a romance writer, and things go from there. I think most people have read that, so you probably don't need a description of it, but that's a good vacation read. And then the other one I had that I still haven't read is Clockmaker's Daughter by Kate Morton. And so this book is on my radar because it has to do with this group of people. I think it's like the mid 1800s, and they're like a group of rich people who spend the summer together in this big mansion, and they're just like drink and play music and things like that until somebody is murdered or something goes missing, and it becomes this big mystery that they have to solve. So that definitely has like vacation vibes to me, but a little bit more on the sinister side. So anyway, you guys, those are some books. Those are some fun recommendations. Those give me very adventure June vibes. I hope you are as excited for summer reading as I am. I'm so excited for the summer, you guys. But anyway, let me know down below if you have any other recommendations. And please, as always, feel free to join in the Discord, join the reading challenge. You're more than welcome to join mid-year. It'll just be really fun. We have a fun community going over there. So that's all I have, you guys. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel if you want to. And otherwise, I'll see you in the next book video. All right, take care.